The Grow My Cleaning Company podcast helps owners of cleaning companies just like you to grow your company and yourself so you can make more money and finally get the time and money freedom that probably got you into this business. Discover how to automate and create systems that allow you to grow like crazy without losing control. If you dig the show and want to show some love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It really helps. Enjoy the show. Hey, Cleaning Nation, Mike Campion here with the lovely Tracey Thompson. We get together once a month. She's one of our mindset coaches, one of the more popular. Everyone loves them, some Tracey. She's perfect between Suzanne and I. So if you listen to the podcast, you've heard Suzanne. She's like the nicest, and I'm probably the meanest. Tracey's got a good streak of both. She can really set you in your place pretty quick, but she can also make you feel good. Where Suzanne and I are, kind of the opposite. We only have one of those. So Tracey plays well between them both. Anyway, today we are recording January 2nd, but I want to make sure we give lots of value, not just for the new year folk that are listening semi-live or, pretty quick, but everyone that may, kind of be listening to archive. So what I thought would be helpful is talking about habits. The way I've been thinking about this is as owners, as people trying to do something in the world, the less leverage we have, the more work we have to do. And then our work is capped, right? Because Tracey, myself, Elon Musk, homeless guy, we all have the same 24 hours a day. We all have a general need to sleep somewhere around 8. And there's that. So in our cleaning companies, we can clean, and then we get to the point of like, I need to leverage something else. Typically, that's people, and then we do that. We're like, oh, now I can leverage 4 or 5 people cleaning, or sometimes 10 if you're insane. And then you have to leverage something else, which would be systems. And then, and a system is nice because if you do it once, you get paid forever. So if you're just like, oh my God, I need to hire, you can hustle and hire. And as long as that guy or gal stays and you don't get any more clients and blah, 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 I guess you're square for a minute. But God forbid he doesn't, or you get more clients, or you need 5 people or whatever, you might want to create a system that you can kind of go to over and over again.
Yes.
So we kind of start with leveraging nothing but our own time, and then we leverage other people's times, and then we leverage systems. And I think the highest leverage point beyond that, which is what I want to talk about today, is leveraging beliefs. And these are all habits, right? If I get in the habit of working all the time, I shall get, and when I say working, I mean cleaning toilets, then I get in the I earn a toilet cleaner wage. If I get in the habit of managing 3 or 4 other cleaners whilst I clean myself, I get in the habit of getting paid what that's worth. And if I get in the habit of having systems and processes that allow me to leverage my time or my business to continue operating wherever I am in the world, then I get paid and my freedom goes according to that. So a lot of what we talk about is the tactics, what to do and how to do it, and the habits that'll serve you or not serve you. And those are really helpful. But if you have the habit of telling yourself lies or believing in things that are going to be at cross purpose with what you want, all the systems and the tools aren't going to work, because it doesn't make any sense if you believe money is evil and that people that have it are evil, and then you do all these habits to get you money. You, sir, you, ma'am, are going to have a tough go. So, Tracey, I open it to you on any thoughts, feedback on how to habitually think and believe the things that will help us as opposed to hurt us.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about this. Obviously, first of the year, it's, I was just sharing with Mike before the podcast that I typically this time of year read a lot of books on and really download a lot of wisdom from people who are clearly successful and the way they think. And the habits, as you said, the habits of how we think and what we believe is a precursor for action, for our behavior. So much of our behavior tends to be unconscious habits. They become patterns of the way that we believe and think and so forth. And it's evident in our results. So if you want different results, this is the point of shift. And that number one is being more aware of what your beliefs are, what you're thinking while you're doing it. It's amazing how much we can go through a day or a week or a month, kind of unconsciously, not even considering that what we believe and what we think is shaping our actions. So one of the big takeaways I got from the book I was just reading, The Millionaire Success Habits, is two things. One is the habit of being willing to accept reality as it is, meaning not resisting, not throwing a fit and basically throwing a tantrum about what is. Number one, accepting what is quickly and then reframing what's happening in a way that's positive. So let's give an example. Something that's very common. What do you hear most?
I have two, and these, we're going to do different because usually I love Tracey's calls because I get to be the, I don't say whiny, but the client and kind of, say all the things I hear, and she coaches me. But we're going to go two examples, neither of which have anything to do with business, but I think you'll easily go, oh my gosh, I've felt that way. And we can connect the dots to business pretty quick. So one is with myself, and the second is with my lovely bride. So with myself, as I'm getting older, I get on the scale and I weigh myself daily, find what you track kind of gets measured. And I'll have a belief about what the scale should say based on what I've said and done the previous day, right? Because I know what I weighed yesterday at this time, and I know what I've done between now and then in terms of eating and exercise, and I've got thoughts. And as I get older, sometimes I'll be honest with you, the scale is just not fair. I ate well and I did this, and I have a very strong belief about what it should tell me. And sometimes it has a different belief of a different number, which I'm like, that's not right. And it's not fair. And I want to throw a fit and I want to negotiate with the scale or with God or with my body and go, that's not fair. Don't you know what I did and what I didn't eat? And I could have eaten that and I didn't. And this should be that. And it isn't. And I can do that as long as I choose, for months or years, God forbid, if I like. And at some point, just like Tracey said, I have to go, well, I can, I don't know who I'm arguing with, myself at this point. My wife's not particularly interested. The scale never speaks back. So it's really just me naked in the bathroom like an idiot, yelling at the moon. So I can do that as long as I please, or I can reframe it and go, okay, I have a scale. My body's not alien matter. It works and gains and loses fat and muscle just like every other, or not just like every other body, but within the boundaries of human existence. So yes, what I'd like to have happened to get me a result did not get me the result. If I want to get a result, fair or not, maybe I'm right and the world is wrong. And, God and me are going, that's not right. But God's allowed a reality, which it is, whether it's right or not. And as soon as I make that shift and make it a healthy frame, I can begin to change. Until then, I salve my wound. You should have, and it should. No, that's not right. And I'm getting old and whatever. How come Tracey's skinny or whatever the case may be? Zero. So that's the first one. Second would be, with my bride, I've asked her to do some things throughout our marriage that are similar things, and she struggles with them. And for me, they're very, very easy. For her, it's not easy. And I had a good mentor, not a business mentor, although he was very good at business, a just human being mentor, spiritual actually, and kind of relational. And he's like, well, you asked her to do something that was reasonable. Like, isn't this, and I'm arguing, isn't this reasonable? Shouldn't she be, she said she would do it. Shouldn't she keep her word? And he goes, great. How many times have you asked her to do something like that? I'm like, I don't know, a dozen easily. Thinking I'm proving my point. Look how wrong she is. How many times? He goes, all right, well, the first time, maybe that's on her. She said she'd do it, whatever. The second 11 times, you're the idiot that keeps asking to do something she's obviously not willing or able to do. Cut it out. So as long as my answer is, well, look at her, look at this other human being who should be doing something different. It's their fault. Employees aren't acting the way they should. That customer shouldn't treat me. My wife or my husband should act like this. And maybe I'm right in every instance. But at the end of the day, either I want that thing done and I should either do it myself or ask someone who's willing and able to demonstrate an ability to do it, or quit my bitching. Like, to complain, my wife she's the consistent one. I've said I would be able to do this and shown my inability or unwillingness for a year now. Pay attention, dummy. So as soon as I'm learning it, it's external. When it's God or my wife or anyone other than this idiot in the mirror, it feels good. Not so good for getting different results. When I finally go, okay, at the end of the day, fair or not, this is my weight. Fair or not, my wife's unwilling or unable. Do I want the result that I want? And if I do, let's own that and take a different tack. Then I can begin something. But until then, not so much. Did that help bring clarity to your point,
yeah,
Tracey? Did I wander off the reservation altogether?
No, those are great examples. They're really real life, everyday examples. And they relate directly to business because it's human universal behavior. So the first thing I wanted to say about both arguing with the scale and expecting something different than reality with your wife, as an example, are examples of the same thing. I call it arguing for your limitations, arguing against reality, right? So you saying, the scale's unfair. It's like people when they look at their P&L or they look at their bank account, they're like, it shouldn't be that. We're like, well, but it is.
And let me give you gave a really, you did something well, and I want people to hear it. What I would label it in my mind and listen to the words I use and what that's going to take me, and listen to the words Tracey used and where that's going to take her or whoever listens. I believe I'm arguing for fairness. Doesn't that sound super just, right? I'm arguing for fairness. It's fair. My wife isn't being fair. And that makes me the right guy, right? And if I'm right, why in God's green earth should I change? The scale's wrong. I'm trying to do what's right here and be fair. So as long as I'm in that identity, I'm going to stay stuck in Fairtown, and I'm the mayor and only citizen of. It's pretty lonely. What Tracey said, I think, is much more true and B, helpful. And you used two words, and I was trying to remember them. It was like reality and truth, or whatever you used. You took my fair legs out from under me and replace them with some better legs. Hit me with those legs, or hit us with those legs again.
Yeah, arguing against reality. What is? That's the first thing, and then really trying to, and then justify. I call it arguing for your limitations. Arguing for the limitations.
So I'm arguing for fairness, which sounds super just. Tracey's like, no, let's call it what it is. You're arguing for your limitations, which doesn't sound as good, but boy, is it much more accurate.
Because if you're trying to argue with reality in a way that is justifying why you're like, oh, but I ate so good yesterday, but I went to the gym. You're like, it's not fair. It's not right. And you're just trying to win an argument about the reality that is, and then putting yourself in the position of being kind of a victim about the whole thing. This isn't fair. It's really you arguing for your limitations, because from that place, you can't change it. You're not empowered to change it because you're too busy arguing for your righteous view. I call it the righteousness of your wrongness. Like being right about being limited. And you're never going to find a solution or take a different action as long as you're in this position of, as I say, kind of being a victim of reality.
For me, I don't know if it resonates as well with Clean Nation. I have a feeling it might. That word victim really got me, because if you said, Mike, give 100 words to describe yourself, victim would probably 1,000, maybe 1,000,000. I don't know how many words there are, but victim wouldn't come up. So, but being fair, I'm very fair. And even the justification, I really like that. Like, I'm justifying my bad behavior, and that makes me a victim. So so cool how when it's the same thing, when I was explaining and I love these arguments because I don't think anyone's like, I don't resonate with some version of that, right? Especially in relationships, right? It's always easy to blame the other jerk as opposed to this jerk in the mirror. So I really like that. I guess that's so important how labels are. When I labeled it as I'm arguing for what's fair, what's right, or what should be, that sounds all very good, not effective at all. But I can sit on, Mount Pius up here and look down at you, you skinny people and judge, right? Or you people with wives that like them. And man, as soon as you go, you're just being a victim. You're justifying your actions. You're justifying your situation. That puts you in the victim seat. I'm like, oh, I would never do that. So I just love the reframe and the relabel, Tracey.
Because you can't change it. How do you know you're being a victim? You know you're being a victim when you're not really looking for solutions now, because you're justifying where you are or where you've been. Like, that's how you know. Like in this situation with your bride, is like the first time you didn't know. Now you know, right? The second, third, fourth, 12th time, you keep arguing why this should be fair, but really that's just code for I'm not going to take any responsibility in this. I'm not going to change. I'm just going to complain about what is and project that. So it's like, would you rather be right in your wrongness or have a different result? If you want a different result, you cannot keep arguing for your righteous position. And
I love that, because I would say if you want a different result, you can't keep doing the same thing. True. But guess what? you're not going to do anything different until you change your beliefs and your argument.
Right.
So I think we want to start with actions and then be like, if I start doing a thing, then the beliefs will follow. And it's like, no. You start with your beliefs and then the actions completely follow. So let's say you'd mentioned, Tracey, step one is identifying. So everyone now take a minute, pause this if you have to hold in your mind one or two habitual beliefs. So for me, the habitual beliefs are, I should be able to eat certain amounts of foods, maybe foods that I was able to eat 10, 20 years ago and still be skinny. Great. That's a fine belief. But if it
your
doesn't
body
work,
doesn't agree, but okay.
Right. Or reality, I don't know who I've got less work or less luck arguing with, the scale or my wife. I think they're both about 0%. So it's, you don't have to live with the scale. It stays in the bathroom and kind of leaves me alone. So I guess it's probably more stakes with my bride. So take a thing and go, okay, here's the thing I'm identifying. What's my scale? What's my relationship? And maybe even pick one of each, right? One was internal, right? There was biology or life or whatever, but it wasn't, a person that I could blame. And then the second is a person. And by the way, maybe I'm right. Maybe I asked my wife to do something wildly easy and reasonable, and she gave her word and she should have done it. But like Tracey said, do I want to be right, or do I want to have a happy wife and get the daggum thing done that I want done? Like, let's get off the right
results you want. Exactly.
Yeah. So get off but not that guy, not him, not her. And let me really get to meddling. Maybe it's a mother-in-law. Maybe it's an ex-wife. Easy enough for me to love my bride who I'm, married to. What about an ex-wife, an ex-husband that they were completely wrong? And maybe they are. Maybe you can tell 100 friends and 100 would go, that a-hole, that with that. Victim, nothing you can do. Or, so yeah, now that we're identifying, and hopefully they've got one or two internal, external victimizations, times they've chosen to be victims in their head. How do we make a new habit?
Right. Well, the first thing is you got to take ownership, and you got to go, okay, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I want a different result. So I can't keep arguing for the justification of why I am where I am. You got to let go of that. That's the first thing. You have to decide that even if you're quote right, it's not helpful. It's not going to help you get where you want.
So I can have my justification, I can have my victimhood, I can have all that, or I can have results. So it's not even a judgment call, bad or good morality. It's like you pick. Because again, by the way, let's be honest, we get value from victimhood, right? If I went to tell Tracey, and Tracey would put up with this crap, but if I went to tell Tracey, oh, my scale and my wife and blah, 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 in her loving way, let's not use Tracey, but many friends or acquaintances for sure would, oh my gosh, that's terrible. She needs to be better. And you should do this. And it's not right. And, and they'll commiserate with me. And we obviously get something out of that. So we got to look at, this isn't a obvious, like, oh, I'm going to get rid of my victimhood, which has never done me any good anyway, and get this new result. It's like, no, my victimhood served me. So at some point you've got to be clear on what we're giving up and go, yeah, there is a cost to this. And that cost
the one thing that you got to give up is honestly, the big payoff for that, if you want to know what it is there is an immediate sense of, oh, I was right. That makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. And it also lets me off the hook for having to change anything. Because if it's her fault, or if it's the scale's fault, or if it's whatever.
If Tracey's not careful, I'll start blaming her. Why not? Let's get another one in the mix. I'm
the reason the scale says what it was.
She's in front of me. Why not?
Exactly. We can keep projecting that responsibility. And so it feels good because we feel right. The second thing is we don't have any responsibility to change it. And so we ask ourselves, why do we do that? Why do we argue against reality? Why do we do it? It's because there is that payoff. So what do you have to do instead? You have to be willing to take ownership. And when I say ownership, I mean ownership of the responsibility of the different result than you've been getting. The result of the scale, you can be mad at the scale all you want. You can crush it. You can hit it with a sledgehammer. Still not going to change the result you want. So you have to take ownership, full radical ownership of the result you want, and then let go of the righteousness of your wrongness in the past and say, okay, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do? Because I'm the owner of the result I am committed to. What do I need to do to get that result?
So how do we codify that into a new belief or a new system of beliefs? Because again, I'm pretty good at that initial, like, I'm a victim, but my tendency tomorrow to get on the scale and shake my fist again. So how do we change it from first we identify, then we make a decision. The value I was getting there is now inferior to the value of the result I want. So I'm not willing to do that anymore. Today I feel great, but then I sleep and do this and have life happen. And, 7 to 107 hours from now, I kind of backslide because I've got a habit. How do we codify that new belief into a new belief system or new belief habit?
Well, you said it early on in this conversation. You said something, and it's key to making a new belief action habit, right? That goes along with the actions, is shifting your identity. If however you painted yourself before, you need to have a belief about yourself, an identity belief about who you are as the owner of this result. So for instance, if I'm trying to
let's stick with the two examples we've got.
Yeah, right? Lose weight on the scale.
Well, let's do them both because I like them, because one's internal. I have no one to blame but the scale or myself, and one's external with a relationship. I think those are all of our problems, how we deal with ourselves and how we deal with those other pesky humans. So let's do both those. What identity was I using in addition to victim, and what identity do I need to make that change with my never-ending losing battle with the scale?
Well, like your old identity probably sounded something like, well, this used to work for me before. I've always been able to do this before. I don't understand. I don't know what the problem is. It's kind of a weak position of, well, I'm just kind of relying on what I did 10 years ago, and I haven't really
or even more insidious. I did this 10 years ago, X. Yeah. I did X plus 5 now. Yeah. So I've done that. I get it. I'm even, see how I'm still victimizing myself. Like, I did better than before.
Trying.
Yeah, I'm trying hard, and not even trying. I'm literally doing better than I was before. So basically the cost is Y or 12. And I'm like, well, I used to pay 2 and I wish I could pay 2, but I get it. I'm a reasonable human. I'm not insane. So I'll pay 6, but the freaking cost is 12. So how do we change that identity from my 6 should be good enough because it's more than the 2 I used to pay, and that I've unilaterally decided that's enough for my, this 10 years of age my body's accumulated. How do I change that identity?
So shifting that to, and if it's hard to do, think about someone or a picture, a mental image of someone who's already done it, and describe that person. Third person at first. Don't make it your own yet, because the monkey mind gets in the way. But what does that person believe about themselves? What might that person get up every morning and say to themselves about?
So now I am gonna what's it called? Play devil's
advocate. Yeah.
So I don't feel this way, but I know there's some people that do. So I want to get it. All right. I picture this person. He's fit and thin, even my age, right? To make it fair.
Yeah.
But you don't understand. So this isn't me. This is for the audience. But you don't understand, Tracey. His genes are better. That jerk probably, and by the way, there is truth, right? There are guys at my age and your age, our age, men and women, that eat whatever the heck they want and look great, and God bless them, or God, the opposite of bless them, however evil we are as humans. But so just for the people whose mind goes there, when they immediately, but it's not fair. He's better. He's younger. She's this, she's got better genes. Look at her mom. My mom's whatever nonsense. Walk me through that.
So, it's not about the important distinction here is, what do they believe? What if you imagine being that person, what do they believe?
What if they believe themselves? I got great genes, and they do, and they can eat whatever they want. So I'm kind of making
here's the irony though. Nobody who's rich ever thinks, well, I was just given all this. And anybody who is fit doesn't say to themselves and doesn't believe this.
Well, but some are. There are some rich people that were given that. Right. There is a distinction between earners and whatever. So perfect. You made my example perfectly. And I'm not saying this is healthy. I'm trying to advocate for the people that are doing that. So you can, because they want to ask you and they're not here. So I'm kind of asking for their behalf. I'm not trying to fight you. I say look at that guy. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and maybe he was. And there are so again, I'm not making this up. There are people, they're in the minority, but there are people that can eat whatever they want all the live long day, and they're just skinny.
And I would argue that those are not the people we use to model.
Okay.
Right?
So if I make a story, true or not, because most of the stories of this are BS anyway. So if I make a story and say I do pick the one guy or gal that's like, yeah, that son of a gun, she's whatever she wants. You're like, yeah, you picked the wrong guy, numbskull. Or if it's getting wealthy and I pick the one rich guy, it's like, yeah, that's not who you're trying. Yes. If you could decide to be born to rich parents, we'd have that conversation, but you're 40, you're 50 or whatever.
Right.
Your birth has been okay. So pick a different person if you go to that, it's another, I still want to be a victim.
Sure.
I guess I haven't really made that decision.
Why I can't do it.
Right. Okay. So go back to, okay, obviously you still want to spend some more time in Victim Town. Once you're ready to come to Power Town, let's talk. Okay. So pick a model that got it the way that you want to get it. So yes, I could pick a 20-year-old kid that eats whatever he wants and go, yeah, but you're not. And that's not. So just fine. Or the guy my age who eats whatever he wants, who's got the 1 in 1,000 gene lottery. Yeah, that ain't you either. So pick the guy that used to be fat, that had it worse than me, that doesn't have the money or time, or I'm sure he had, more things, and go, what would he have? Or what does he believe? What does he believe?
What do they believe? And this is where I really advocate what you input into your mind, into your being. What do you listen to? Who are the people around you? Having examples, right? Dare I say, even if you can have a mentor, but certainly having those models in place, because it's not even the behavior. Sometimes it can be what they're doing, do what they do, but it's more about what do they think about themselves? What do they believe routinely? They wake up every morning and say, I am a healthy, fit person because that's who I am. I eat this way. I do these things as this identity. I have this identity. I am the owner of my health. I am the one who determines, my actions I take every day. So that kind of ownership, and having a model of the way that person thought of themselves and the way that they believe, really makes a big difference. So if you're struggling and you're not really sure, like, okay, I'm not sure. Listen, everybody has access to Google. Like, start Googling stories of people that were in their 40s or 50s and were out of shape and got in shape. Someone who you model for relationships, as an example. So there's always a level up in the way that you're believing about yourself. But I call it your superhero persona. You've got to have a superhero version of yourself that helps lift you up out of the current version, right? And you have to practice it every day. You got to get up. And it's just like anything, it's a habit. Are you going to feed the old pattern and the old habit and allow that to take you over day after day after day? Or are you going to get up and tell yourself this new identity story? And it is practice.
So you said a lot of powerful things. I can only give my perspective. I think my favorite thing that I'm going to really try to hold on from that, Tracey, is guys like me, and I think many of our listeners, we do look at successful people, and that makes sense, but we want to look at what they do because it's a little easier, right?
Sure.
And of course, obviously the easy path isn't always the path that's going to get you what you want, but I can look at what somebody does. You counseled or coached to look at what they think or what they believe.
What they believe.
And again, guy or gal committed to victimhood. Well, how would I know? I can see what they do, but I don't know what they believe or how they think. It's like, well, I don't know. Gosh, if only people would ever write down what they thought and how they experienced it, put it, oh, wait, hold on. Like, if only things like books existed, for crying out loud.
There's lots of mindset books about that very topic. This is so important. This is why I'm a mindset coach, because what you believe about yourself, the stories you tell yourself every day, what you practice here shapes your actions. So if you're trying to break out of an old unconscious pattern or old unconscious habits, you must feed and practice every day those new beliefs, those new identity stories that you tell yourself every day.
So I think that's a great kind of wrap up point. If you want different results for 2023. I think the starting point is, and I like that, because if you're like, I have to change everything about who I am, that's really overwhelming and pretty unrealistic. But if you're like, I just want to look at the main result I'm not getting. And by the way, it could be very different. And again, we've used two, and I love none of them were business, because business are pretty obvious. I make 10 grand a month. I want to make 100, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But health or relationships is even, that's a little, health is even, I weigh this much, I want to weigh that much. But that could be more squishy in terms of, I want to be able to play with my kids more, run a marathon, or whatever that looks like. So identify the specific result that you're not getting.
Mm-hmm.
B, and correct me if I mess any of this up, Trace. B, identify the beliefs I had of generally the victim, the justification that that's okay. C, replace those with more effective beliefs. And you're like, well, how do I do that? Find out what people that are already getting that result are believing and feeling, and then believe and feel those things. And then if you do that, and then do it over and over. And when you catch yourself going back to victimhood, and that's why I love the, and Tracey, you said it perfectly. So we'll give you kind of put a bow on this thing. A mentor is really the way to do that.
Yeah.
And
community and mentors.
And really community is just, because mentors can mean a lot of different things the way you look at it. But any community, the old saying, which is very true, if you take the income or the net worth of the 5 people you're closest to, that shall be your income and your net worth. So yes, those, you're mentoring them and they're mentoring you subconsciously, unintentionally, oftentimes. Right. So easiest thing is pick people around you who believe the things that you want to believe, and stop, going with the people that you can go, look at my wife, look at the scale, and have them go, yeah, they suck. And, I'm also, now let me tell you about why I'm a victim. And, those relationships probably feel a little better, but short term, and, not so great long term.
Yeah.
So baby step of upgrading your beliefs is hang around people with the beliefs that you want. And you can do that casually with friends, just choosing the friends that you want to spend more and less time with, intentionally with people that you really respect their outcome in a book, or much more intentionally if the person that you happens to have some sort of system or process where they're like, I will show you how to do what I want. I hate to use the word guru, but many of the people that have done stuff get to the point where like, I'd like to help other people do stuff.
Sure.
I've gotten those results and do that. So that would be the latter I would see. Upgrade who you spend your time with. And I guess books are a way to spend time with somebody, really.
Yeah. It's a good start.
Better than a Facebook group, no offense. Physical groups, mentorship groups, trying to think if there's any other ways. Okay. That's what I got, Tracey. Anything to add?
Yeah. Listen, if you are committed to making these shifts in your life, in your business, your health, your relationships, seek out support. Really, truly. I believe accountability is always our own. However, it's a lot easier to hold ourselves accountable when we are collaborating and coming together with others. So if you don't have that for yourself, if you don't have someone who's helping you, coaching you, please reach out. Do that.
Well said. All right, guys, gals, if what we have to offer in that regard is if you go to growmycleaningcompany.com, there's like 900 of these episodes. So that's not really a book, but even better, you've got people that are going to give you beliefs that are effective and helpful right into your ear hole. I have written 2 books. Feel free to check those out. That's it. If you need some help, you can always just email me, Mike at growmycleaningcompany.com, or reach out to the team. But lots and lots of free resources. Check it out now. We'll see you there. Well, here we are, the end of the podcast, and you made it. Great job. I've got a little bonus for you for sticking through with me. But like I mentioned before, if you got value out of this podcast and you want to show a little love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever the heck you're listening to this thing. Share it with a friend. Share the love. And as a special thank you for those of you that stuck with me to the end, how about I give you my personal phone number so we can text? It's a great way for me to get to know you, your business, your goals personally. So shoot me a text now, 602-932-6431. That's 602-932-6431. I am the only one who responds to these texts, and I will personally respond to everyone I possibly can as long as this number is manned. Don't know how long we're going to keep this at the end of the podcast, so grab it now, 602-932-6431. Give me a text, say hey, can't wait to meet you.